March 17th, 2024, 11:47 p.m. I was on line 43 of Schedule C for Christopher Dane's return when I saw it. A $15,000 payment to J. Mitchell Real Estate Consulting Services, my wife's business name, for a property Christopher never bought. My hand froze on the red pen I'd been using to mark discrepancies all night, and I felt this weird calm wash over me. The kind you get when your brain knows something catastrophic just happened, but your body hasn't caught up yet. Look, I know that's a hell of a place to start. If you've got time, and maybe something stronger than coffee, settle in, because this story gets worse before it gets better, and then it gets, well, let's just say satisfying. Here's what you need to know. 2 years ago, I thought I had it all figured out. 10-year marriage to a beautiful woman, successful tax preparation business I'd built from scratch, clients who trusted me with their deepest financial secrets. I was the guy people came to when they needed the numbers to make sense. Then one line item on a tax return unraveled everything. My marriage, my client's career, my wife's entire life, and what I did with that information. Well, let's just say the IRS wasn't the only one conducting an audit that spring. My name's Robert Mitchell. I'm 40 years old, I'm an enrolled agent, and I run a tax preparation firm in Scottsdale, Arizona. That probably sounds boring as hell to you, and honestly, it kind of is. But here's the thing about boring. Boring is predictable. Boring is safe. Boring means you can spot when something's wrong, because everything's supposed to add up. And on March 17th, 2024, my entire life stopped adding up, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up to where this really started. January 2022. Tax season was ramping up, which for me meant the beginning of what I called my Super Bowl season. 4 months of organized chaos, late nights, cold pizza, and more coffee than any human should consume. I loved it. I know that makes me sound like a psychopath, but there's something deeply satisfying about taking someone's financial mess and making it make sense. Finding every deduction they're entitled to, saving them money they didn't know they could save. The numbers never lie, you know. They just sit there, honest and clean, waiting for someone to read them properly. I had a good setup. Small office in North Scottsdale, team of 5 including me. 4 other preparers and admins who knew their stuff. We handled about 400 clients a year, mix of individuals and small businesses. Nothing huge but solid, respectable. I made about $120K annually, which in Scottsdale meant we were comfortable, but not wealthy. Not Christopher Dane wealthy anyway. Christopher was one of my VIP clients. Real estate developer, the kind of guy who walked into a room and made it feel like you should be grateful he was there. Big personality, expensive watches, drove a Mercedes G-Wagon that probably cost more than my first house. He'd been my client for 6 years by that point, always brought a bottle of really good whiskey to our year-end planning meetings. Always had some story about a deal he'd closed or a property he'd flipped. I'm not going to lie, I liked him, or I thought I did. Christopher made you feel like you were in his inner circle. Like you were friends and not just the guy who saved him money on his taxes every April. That should have been a red flag right there. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. At home, things seemed fine. Jennifer, my wife, had her career in real estate. She'd been an agent for about 8 years, did okay, made maybe $80K a year on a good year. She'd always been a little resentful that I made more, even though she'd never admit it directly. It came out in small comments. Must be nice to have such steady income. At least your job isn't dependent on the market. That kind of thing. But I figured, you know that's just marriage. Everybody's got something. We lived in a nice house in a gated community. 4 bedrooms, pool in the back, 2-car garage. The American dream, right? We didn't have kids. Jennifer always said, someday when we're more established. But we had a good life, or so I thought. Date nights when I wasn't drowning in returns, vacations once a year, normal married couple stuff, except looking back I can see the cracks forming. I just didn't want to look at them too closely. It started in the winter of 2022. Jennifer began going to more conferences and networking events. Real estate's competitive, she said. She needed to break into the luxury market if she wanted to level up her career. Made sense to me. I was supportive. Hell, I was proud of her ambition. She'd come back from these weekends energized, glowing even. I remember thinking it was great to see her so passionate about work. I should have seen it then, but I was too busy looking at other people's numbers to see what was happening in my own life. Valentine's Day, 2022. I remember this clearly because it was the beginning of tax season hell, but I wanted to do something nice. Made a reservation at her favorite restaurant, got her flowers, the whole thing. She showed up looking beautiful, wearing this new necklace I hadn't seen before, actually. When I asked about it, she said she'd treated herself with commission from a good sale. Fair enough, but the whole dinner, she seemed distracted. Kept checking her phone, said it was a client. I kept trying to engage, telling her about my day, asking about hers. Every answer was short, vague. By dessert, I felt like I was boring her. Like I was this obligation she had to get through before she could get back to whatever was actually interesting in her life. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, fine, just tired." "We could have stayed home if you wanted." "No, this is nice. You put in effort. I appreciate it." You put in effort. I appreciate it. Not, I love you. Not, this is wonderful. Just acknowledgement of effort expended. Like I was an employee getting a performance review. I remember driving home that night, her staring out the window at the city lights and thinking, when did we become this? When did we become two people who lived in the same house but didn't really connect anymore? But then tax season hit full force and I stopped thinking about it. Because that's what I did. When something felt uncomfortable, I buried myself in work. Easier to focus on depreciation schedules and itemized deductions than to face the fact that my marriage might be dying. Then came Christopher's appointment in March 2022. He showed up at my office like always, big smile, firm handshake, asking how my season was going. We went through his return. Nothing too complicated that year. Some rental property income, his development business expenses, the usual stuff. But there was this moment, this tiny moment I didn't think anything of at the time. He asked about Jennifer. "How's your wife's real estate business going?" "Good, I think. She's been hitting a lot of networking events lately." "Yeah, I met her at that chamber event last month. Sharp lady. Really knows the luxury market." I paused. "What chamber event?" "The one at the Phoenician. Big networking thing." We chatted about the market for a bit. Jennifer hadn't mentioned meeting Christopher. Hadn't mentioned any chamber event at all, actually. Just said she'd been to a work thing. "Small world," I said. "Scottsdale, man. Everybody knows everybody." I filed that away. Didn't think much of it. Scottsdale is a small community when you're in real estate or business services. Made sense they'd cross paths. But when I was finalizing his return that night, I noticed his Schedule C had some significant consulting expenses. About $30,000 worth over the year to various business development vendors. I asked him about it over email, standard due diligence. "Just consultants I use for market analysis and deal sourcing," he replied. "You know how it is. Gotta spend money to make money." I accepted it. Why wouldn't I? Christopher was a successful developer. Of course he used consultants. I signed off on the return, e-filed it, collected my fee, and moved on. But here's what I didn't know. That was the beginning. February 2022 was when Jennifer and Christopher started their affair. While I was drowning in tax returns, working 70-hour weeks, my wife and my client were beginning a 2-year relationship that would eventually blow up all of our lives. And I was too busy balancing other people's books to see it. The next 18 months blurred together. Tax season 2022 ended. Summer came, fall, winter again. Jennifer's conferences became routine. 2-3 times a month, she'd be gone for a weekend. Sometimes a Wednesday through Friday. Luxury Property Expo. Real Estate Investment Summit. Networking Retreat. I normalized it. This is what ambitious people do, right? They hustle, they network, they build their brand. But looking back, and God, hindsight is a vicious thing. The signs were everywhere. She became more critical of me. My work was too boring. I wasn't spontaneous enough. Why didn't we ever do anything exciting? Everything I did was wrong, or not enough, or disappointing somehow. She'd roll her eyes when I'd try to tell her about my day. She'd sigh when I suggested we watch a movie together. I felt like I was constantly failing some test I hadn't known I was taking. She started caring more about her appearance. New clothes, new haircuts, that new gym membership she was suddenly religious about. Again, I told myself, she's in real estate. Image matters. She's investing in her career. She became obsessive about her phone, took it everywhere, to the bathroom, to bed, face down on the counter. Passcode changed. When I asked about it once, "New passcode," she got defensive. "Why you trying to spy on me?" Not joking, accusatory. I wasn't trying to spy. I just noticed. Christmas 2023 was rough. Her family came to visit, and we had to put on this performance of being a happy couple, but her mom pulled me aside at one point, concerned look on her face. "You two seem distant lately. Everything okay?" "Yeah, fine, just, work stress." "Robert, I know my daughter. Something's off." "We're good, Carol, really." But we weren't good, and that night after everyone went to bed, I tried to talk to Jennifer about it. "Feel like we're disconnected lately. Maybe we should plan a trip together, just us." She didn't even look up from her phone. "With what time? You're already planning for next tax season." "I'm trying here." "Are you, though?" "What's that supposed to mean?" She finally looked at me. "Robert, you're a good guy. You really are. You're responsible and reliable, and you work hard. But God, you're boring. Do you realize how boring you are?" That hit me like a punch. "I'm boring." You work, you come home, you watch the same shows, you go to bed at the same time every night, you eat the same meals, you have the same conversations. When was the last time you surprised me? When was the last time we did anything that wasn't scheduled 3 weeks in advance? I didn't have an answer. "Maybe if you were more interesting," she said, turning back to her phone, "I'd want to be around more." I should have confronted her then, should have demanded to know why she was being so cruel. But I didn't, because part of me believed her. Part of me thought, yeah, I am boring, I am predictable, maybe she's just frustrated, maybe this is my fault. So I went to bed, feeling like shit, while my wife stayed up texting someone who definitely wasn't a client. January 2024 rolled around. Tax season again. My refuge, my safe space, except this time I couldn't focus. Couldn't turn off the part of my brain that kept whispering something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. I started noticing more. The way she'd get texts at weird hours and disappear to respond to a client. The way she'd mention restaurants I knew were expensive, places you'd take a date, not a work contact. The way she'd have these weekend showings but never seemed to close deals anymore. One night late January, I couldn't sleep. Got up, went to the kitchen for water. Her iPad was on the counter charging. We'd shared the same Apple ID for years. It was linked to her phone. Notifications were popping up on the lock screen. Text message from C. "Had a great time last week. Can't wait for Scottsdale." I stood there, glass of water in my hand, staring at that message. C. Who the hell was C? I knew I should walk away. Knew I should just ask her directly. But instead, I picked up the iPad, tried her passcode. It was still synced from her old one that I knew. It worked. And there they were. Messages from C. Dozens of them. Flirty, intimate, not quite explicit, but close enough. "Missing you already. Can't believe we have to wait 2 weeks. You look incredible in that dress." I scrolled up, saw plans for trips, references to hotels, inside jokes, Terms of endearment. I should have kept reading. Should have found out who C was right then. But Jennifer's footsteps on the stairs sent me scrambling to put the iPad back. Exactly how I'd found it. She came into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. "What are you doing up? Couldn't sleep? Just getting water." She nodded, grabbed the iPad without looking at it, went back upstairs. I stood there in the dark, heart pounding, feeling like I might throw up. That's when I became one of those people. The ones who Google signs of cheating at 2 in the morning. The ones who read Reddit threads about infidelity. The ones who know what gaslighting means because they're experiencing it. Every sign I read about, I recognized. The emotional distance, the criticism, the protecting of the phone, the changed appearance, the frequent absences, the defensiveness. C had to be someone she was seeing. Had to be. But who? And how long? And what the hell was I supposed to do about it? I decided to wait, to watch, to document. Because confronting her without proof felt like walking into a trap. She'd deny it. Tell me I was paranoid. Turn it around on me somehow. February and March crawled by. Every day was torture. Going through the motions at home, pretending everything was fine. Meanwhile, I was checking her iPad whenever I could, watching her patterns, noting when she was at showings versus actually at home. And I was building a spreadsheet, because that's what I do. I organize data, I find patterns, I make the numbers tell the truth. Column A, date. Column B, what Jennifer told me she was doing. Column C, where her texts suggested she actually was. Column D, notes. The picture was becoming clear. She was somewhere else, with someone else, multiple times a month, but I still didn't know who C was. Not until March 17th. Christopher Dane's appointment was scheduled for March 20th. His annual tax return meeting like clockwork every year. He'd already sent me his documents. Credit card statements, 1099s, K1s, expense receipts, all the usual stuff. I was doing my preliminary review late Sunday night because that's when I do my best work. House is quiet, coffee's strong, no interruptions. I was going through his Schedule C, business expenses for his development company, when I got to line 43, professional services and consulting fees. There were a lot of entries, market analysts, legal consultants, contractors, normal stuff for a developer. And then, J. Mitchell Real Estate Consulting Services, $15,000. My wife's business name. I stared at that line for what felt like hours but was probably 30 seconds. Jennifer had never mentioned working with Christopher, not once. And I would have known, wouldn't I? I did Christopher's taxes every year. We talked about his business. He'd never mentioned hiring my wife or anything. Also, and this is the important part, Christopher hadn't bought any properties in 2023. I knew because I had all his records. No new acquisitions, no major deals. So what the hell had he paid Jennifer $15,000 to consult on? My hands started shaking. I pulled up his supporting documents. Found the invoice from Jennifer's business. Dated March 2023, exactly 1 year ago. Services rendered market analysis and client development consulting for luxury properties in Scottsdale area. But here's what made my stomach drop. I knew Jennifer's business. She'd given me access to her business account years ago, for tax purposes. I could log in right now and check. So I did. Her business checking account showed that $15,000 deposit, March 15th, 2023, from Christopher Dane Development, LLC. But there was no corresponding work, no contract, no deliverables. Nothing in her records that suggested she'd actually done any consulting work for him. It was a fake invoice, a fraudulent business expense. Christopher was getting a tax deduction for $15,000 he'd paid my wife for services she never provided, and I knew exactly what that $15,000 was actually for. My brain was working fast now, that cold analytical part taking over. If there was one fake invoice, were there more? I started going through Christopher's prior year returns, the ones I'd already filed. 2022, there it was. J. Mitchell Real Estate Consulting Services, $8,000. 2021, J. Mitchell, Consulting, $5,000. 3 years, 3 fake invoices, total of $28,000. That's when I started pulling credit card statements. Christopher's corporate card, which he'd provided for me to verify business expenses. Hotels, Sedona, San Diego, Palm Springs, Napa. All luxury places, all showing up as business expenses, all on dates that matched Jennifer's conferences. Restaurants, the same ones Jennifer had mentioned casually. Tried this amazing new place. Client took me to the nicest dinner, except it wasn't clients taking her. It was Christopher, on his corporate card, expensing it all as business development, jewelry store receipts. I cross-referenced with photos on Jennifer's Instagram. That necklace from Valentine's 2022. Christopher had bought it. January 14th, 2022. $3,200. Business expense for client gift. The emerald bracelet she'd worn to Christmas. There it was, December 2nd, 2023. $5,800. Marketing expense. I felt like I was going to throw up. But I kept going, because once you start pulling a thread, you have to pull it all the way through. I built a new spreadsheet, a comprehensive one. Every date Jennifer had told me she was at a conference or showing, cross-referenced with Christopher's credit card charges. Hotels, restaurants, flights, gifts, everything. 127 line items. Over 2 years, 43 trips together. Total amount Christopher had spent on my wife, expensed as business deductions, approximately $87,000. Around 2 a.m., I threw up in my office trash can. Then I kept working, because I needed to see all of it. Needed to understand the full scope of what they'd done. I went back to Jennifer's iPad messages. Now that I knew C was Christopher, I read everything with new clarity. The messages went back to January 2022. 26 months of texts, planning trips, coordinating schedules, talking about restaurants, hotels, gifts, and yes, plenty of miss you and can't wait to see you and last night was incredible. But the ones that really killed me were from the past few months. Christopher, think about what I said. You could leave him. We could do this for real. Jennifer, I'm scared, but also excited. Let me think about it. Christopher, you deserve someone who appreciates you, someone who's not boring. She'd called me boring to my client, to the man she was sleeping with, using my words, my vulnerabilities, as fodder for their affair. There was more. Jennifer discussing how I was always working and never spontaneous. Christopher suggesting weekend getaways, promising adventure, excitement, a better life. The last message was from 4 days ago. Jennifer, he suspects something. He's been acting weird. Christopher, so, leave him. You've been thinking about it anyway. Jennifer, after tax season, let him finish the returns, then I'll tell him. After tax season, that was 3 weeks away. She was planning to leave me in 3 weeks, and I'd had no idea. I sat there until sunrise, staring at my computer screen, my carefully built spreadsheet of evidence, my wife's planned betrayal laid out in rows and columns, and I felt calm, weirdly, terrifyingly calm. Because here's the thing about numbers, they don't lie, they can't be argued with, they just are. And the numbers were telling me that my wife and my client had been conducting a 2-year affair, fraudulently expensing it as business costs, and planning to run off together the moment I finished making their taxes convenient. The sun came up. Jennifer came downstairs ready for work, found me sitting in my office, still at my desk. Did you sleep here? Got caught up with a complicated return. I smiled at her. Casual, normal. You know how it is. You need to take better care of yourself. You're right, I'll come to bed earlier tonight. She kissed the top of my head. Love you. The words felt like acid. Love you too. She left. I sat there, listening to her car pull out of the driveway. Then I picked up my phone and called my business attorney. Kyle, yeah, it's Robert Mitchell. I need a favor. Can you recommend a good divorce lawyer? The next 8 weeks were the most methodical, calculated, strategic period of my life. I became someone I didn't recognize, someone cold, someone focused, someone who could smile at his wife over breakfast while planning her destruction. First stop was the divorce attorney Kyle recommended, Madison Harper, reputation for being a shark. I met her 3 days after my discovery, brought my spreadsheet, my evidence, my documentation. She spent 30 minutes reviewing everything I'd compiled. Then she looked up at me with something like awe. In 20 years of practice, I've never seen a client come in this organized. I'm a tax preparer. Organization is kind of my thing. This is more than organization. This is a prosecutable case. Tax fraud, embezzlement. You have them dead to rights. Can I use it in the divorce? Arizona's a no-fault state, so technically infidelity doesn't matter. But fraud? Misappropriation of marital funds. That absolutely matters for asset division. Plus, she paused. Have you thought about reporting the tax fraud to the IRS? I can't file his return knowing it's fraudulent. That would cost me my license. I'm not suggesting you file it. I'm suggesting you report it. You're mandated to report known fraud as an enrolled agent. And if you don't report it, you're complicit. She was right. The IRS has a whistleblower program, Form 3949A, information referral. I could report Christopher's fraudulent deductions anonymously, or I could attach my name and potentially receive a reward if they collected significant money from him. How long do you need to build your case? Madison asked. April 15th is tax deadline. I need until then to finish my other clients' returns. After that, I want to move fast. Good. Here's what we do. Over the next 6 weeks, I executed phase 1 of my plan with military precision. I hired a private investigator, Marcus, former cop, specialized in infidelity cases. $3,000 to follow Jennifer and document everything. He delivered photos within 2 weeks. Jennifer and Christopher at restaurants holding hands, kissing in parking structures, entering his downtown condo at 4 p.m. on a Wednesday, leaving the next morning wearing the same clothes. I accessed Jennifer's business credit card statements. She'd set up a separate card and had statements going to her office so I wouldn't see them. But she'd forgotten she'd given me access to her business accounts years ago. I logged in, downloaded 3 years of statements, more hotels, more trips, more evidence. I slowly started moving money from our joint accounts. Not huge amounts, $500 here, $800 there. Transferred to a new account at a different bank that Jennifer knew nothing about. Over 6 weeks, I moved $15,000. She never noticed. Why would she? I was the one who handled our finances. I made copies of everything, every document, every photo, every piece of evidence. Digital copies on encrypted drives, physical copies in a safe deposit box at my bank, paper copies in my attorney's office. I consulted with an IRS specialist, confirmed that Christopher's fake consulting invoices were absolutely prosecutable fraud, that he'd received at least $28,000 in false deductions, avoiding roughly $10,000 in taxes, that Jennifer, as the recipient, could also face charges for participating in the scheme. All the while, I went to work every day, smiled at clients, prepared returns, came home to Jennifer, made small talk over dinner, acted like everything was normal. She had no idea. None. There were hard moments, times when she'd laugh at something on TV, and I'd remember why I fell in love with her. Times when I'd see her sleeping and feel this crushing sadness for what we'd lost. Times when I wanted to scream at her, to demand answers, to ask why I wasn't enough. But I didn't, because I had a plan, and the plan required patience. April 15th came and went. I filed my last return, closed out another tax season, sent Christopher an email. Need to discuss some discrepancies on your return. Can't file until we resolve them. We'll need to file an extension. He called immediately. What discrepancies? Just some documentation issues, nothing major. We'll get it sorted. Robert, I need to file on time. I don't want an extension. Trust me. You want to get this right. IRS has been auditing a lot of business expenses lately. We need to make sure everything's bulletproof. He didn't like it, but he agreed, because he trusted me. Still thought I was too busy and too boring to ever suspect anything. That was his mistake. I picked May 20th for execution, Christopher's birthday. Poetic in a way. Also a Monday, everyone at their offices. Maximum professional damage. That weekend, I moved the last of my personal belongings to a storage unit. Everything that mattered to me. My grandfather's watch, my signed baseball collection, my important documents. Anything I didn't want destroyed in the aftermath. Sunday night, I didn't sleep. Went over the plan one more time. Everything was ready. Divorce papers prepared. IRS complaint prepared. Ethics complaint for Jennifer's real estate board prepared. Process server hired. Everything timed to the minute. Monday morning, May 20th, 2024, 9:19 a.m. The process server walked into Jennifer's real estate office and handed her the divorce papers in front of her entire team. The petition was 38 pages. Exhibit A was my evidence packet. Photos, emails, financial records, the whole thing. Attached was a request for immediate separation of all marital assets based on fraud and infidelity, a restraining order on the joint accounts so she couldn't empty them, and a demand for 70% of marital assets based on her misappropriation of funds. I didn't see it happen. But her office manager, who I'd gone to college with, texted me later. "Holy shit, Rob, Jennifer just got served. She's losing it." 9:15 a.m. A certified letter arrived at Christopher's development office from my attorney. Cease and desist all contact with Jennifer Mitchell. You are named in divorce proceedings. Be advised that federal tax fraud charges are being filed. He called me immediately. I sent him to voicemail. He called 8 more times. Voicemail. 9:30 a.m. I filed Form 3949A with the IRS online. Attached all documentation, Christopher's fake invoices, bank records proving Jennifer never provided services, Christopher's own emails discussing the write-off scheme. Estimated tax loss, approximately $10,000. $10 a.m. I sent an email to Christopher's 2 ex-wives. Subject line, information you deserve to know. Attached was a summary of the affair, the fake invoices, and a suggestion that they might want to review their own divorce settlements to see if Christopher had used similar tactics to hide income from them. Both responded within the hour. Ex-wife number 1, thank you. I knew something was off with our finances during the divorce. My attorney will be very interested in this. Ex-wife number 2, I'm sending this to his business partners. They should know what kind of person they're working with. 10:30 a.m. I filed a formal complaint with the Arizona State Board of Real Estate, detailed how Jennifer had used her professional license to facilitate fraud, attached evidence of the fake invoices, proof she'd mixed personal and professional business for financial gain, violation of ethics codes. 11 a.m. I sent an anonymous email to Jennifer's brokerage compliance department. One of your agents is using her position for personal financial gain through fraudulent business arrangements. Attached evidence, CC'd the broker and compliance officer. My phone started going crazy. Calls from Jennifer, calls from Christopher, texts. Rob, please. We need to talk. This is insane. Call me immediately. I replied to both with the same message. All communication goes through my attorney, Madison Harper, Scottsdale Family Law. Then I blocked their numbers. 11:30 a.m. Jennifer's broker called her into his office, put her on immediate administrative leave pending investigation, required her to surrender her client files, had security escort her out of the building with a box of her personal items. I know this because 3 different people from her office called or texted me. In a small professional community, news travels fast. 1 South p.m., Christopher's business partners received the anonymous email from his ex-wife, number 2, called emergency meeting, started asking questions about his expense accounts. 2:04 p.m., the Arizona Real Estate Board sent Jennifer a letter. Formal investigation opened, her license suspended pending review. 2:30 p.m. Jennifer's attorney called Madison, wanted to negotiate, willing to agree to any terms if I'd drop the IRS complaint and the real estate board complaint. Madison called me. She's offering everything, full settlement. She keeps nothing, just wants you to retract the reports. No, Robert, you'd get everything you want, the house, the accounts, everything. I don't want everything. I want justice. The IRS complaint stands. Durch. p.m. Christopher's attorney made the same offer. He'd give me money, agree to pay damages, anything. Just retract the IRS fraud report. No. Robert, he could face criminal charges. He committed crimes. That's not my problem. 4:00 p.m. Jennifer called from her sister's phone. I hadn't blocked that one yet. How could you do this? You've destroyed my career. I almost laughed. How could I do this? Jennifer, you cheated on me for 2 years with my client. You committed tax fraud. You stole from our accounts. You lied to me every single day, and you want to know how I could do this? I made a mistake. We can fix this. No, we can't. You made 127 mistakes. I counted them. Every trip, every lie, every dollar you spent with him while I was at home working. You thought I was too busy to notice, too boring to care. Turns out boring people are very good at organizing evidence. She started crying. I'm not sleeping. I can't eat. I had a panic attack yesterday. Please, Rob, just make it stop. Part of me, the old me, wanted to comfort her. The old me who avoided conflict and wanted everyone to be okay. But I'd killed that guy. The numbers had killed him. You should have thought about that before you fucked my client and helped him defraud the government. Don't call me again. I hung up. 7 p.m. I posted on Reddit. Throwaway account. Our nuclear revenge. Our surviving. Infidelity. Told the whole story. No real names, but enough details that anyone in our professional circle would recognize it. Caught my wife's affair through a tax return. The consulting fee that destroyed 2 lives. It went viral. 15,000 upvotes by morning. Thousands of comments. People calling me a legend. People saying I'd done exactly the right thing. Some people saying I'd gone too far. I didn't care what they thought. It wasn't for them. It was for everyone in our community who would inevitably hear the story. Now they had my version, the truth, before Jennifer or Christopher could spin it as something else. I went home that night. The house was empty. Jennifer had moved out. Her stuff was gone from the closet. Her toiletries gone from the bathroom. She'd left her key on the kitchen counter. I made dinner, poured a glass of whiskey, sat in my backyard by the pool as the sun set. My phone was still blowing up with notifications, but I turned it off, and I just sat there, feeling nothing. Not happy, not sad, just done. The numbers were balanced, the equations solved, the accounts settled. Everything was over. The next few weeks were chaos I watched from a distance. Jennifer's brokerage fired her after their investigation. Not suspended, fired. Ethics violation, they said. Using her position for personal gain. They had to report it to the state board, which meant the suspension of her license became permanent. She lost her career. She had to move in with her sister. Couldn't afford an apartment without income. Started applying for property management jobs, not sales, because she couldn't sell without a license. The only offers she got were for entry-level positions making $35,000 a year. Her friends started distancing themselves. Some outright ghosted her. The local real estate community is tight and word spread fast. The woman who committed fraud with a married client. The woman who lost her license. Nobody wanted to be associated with that. Christopher's situation was worse. The IRS sent an audit notice, full examination of his business expenses for the past 3 years. He had to provide documentation for everything. The fake consulting invoices, obviously, he couldn't support. His business partners conducted their own internal audit. Found more questionable expenses, Nothing illegal necessarily, but enough to make them uncomfortable. They voted to buy him out, forced him out of his own company. His ex-wife number 1 reopened her divorce settlement, claimed he'd hidden income through false business expenses during their marriage too, demanded forensic accounting. Ex-wife number 2 did the same. He was suddenly fighting legal battles on 3 fronts: IRS audit, 2 divorce reopenings, plus my divorce, which he was named in. He ended up settling with the IRS for $78,000, back taxes, penalties, and interest. Had to sell his downtown condo to pay it. Had to sell most of his development properties too, to cover the legal fees and the buyout from his partners. Last I heard, he moved to Phoenix, trying to start over. But his reputation preceded him. Nobody in real estate wanted to work with the guy who committed tax fraud and got caught by his own accountant. The affair between Jennifer and Christopher didn't survive the fallout. They blamed each other. Jennifer claimed Christopher had pressured her into the fake invoice scheme. Christopher claimed Jennifer had seduced him and he was just a victim. Neither was true, of course. They'd both participated willingly. They'd both thought they were clever. They were both wrong. But here's the thing. Nobody tells you about revenge. Winning doesn't feel like you think it will. Week 2. After everything exploded, Jennifer showed up at my office. Wednesday afternoon, my receptionist buzzed me, uncertain. "Jennifer's here. She wants to talk to you." I should have said no, but curiosity got the better of me. She looked terrible, like she hadn't slept in days, hair unwashed, wearing sweatpants and a hoodie. Jennifer, who never left the house without looking perfect. Her eyes were red and puffy. She sat down in my conference room. I stayed standing, keeping distance. "What do you want?" "I need you to call off the real estate board complaint. Please, I'll lose my license permanently." "You've already lost it. The investigation isn't over. If you withdraw your complaint, they might what? Pretend you didn't commit fraud. Jennifer, you used your professional license to facilitate a scheme to defraud the federal government. That's not a mistake. That's a crime." "I know." Her voice broke. "I know I fucked up. I know I hurt you. I destroyed everything. But does my entire career have to end? Does my whole life have to be over?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman I'd been married to for 10 years. The woman I'd loved, trusted, built a life with. She looked broken. Genuinely, deeply broken. And I felt something. Not sympathy exactly, but something adjacent to it. A crack in the cold armor I'd built. "I'm having panic attacks," she said quietly. "I can't sleep, I can't eat. Yesterday I couldn't breathe. Thought I was dying. My sister had to drive me to urgent care. They said it was anxiety. Gave me pills." She laughed bitterly. "Pills for anxiety caused by my own choices. Poetic, right? Jennifer, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve that. I can't survive this. I can't rebuild if you keep burning everything down." There it was. The moment. The chance to show mercy. To be the bigger person. To prove I wasn't the villain in this story. But then I remembered. "Love you," in those texts to Christopher. Planning to leave me after tax season. Calling me boring to the man she was sleeping with. 2 years of lies. 127 pieces of evidence. "You didn't just hurt me," I said. "You committed fraud. You used your professional license to facilitate an affair and defraud the government. Those have consequences." "I know." "No, I don't think you do. Because you're sitting here asking me to make it stop. Like this is something I did to you. I didn't do this to you. You did this to yourself." She collapsed into the chair, crying. Not pretty crying. Ugly, gut-wrenching sobs. One of my employees, Sarah, knocked on the door, concerned. "Boss, you okay?" "Yeah, Jennifer was just leaving." Jennifer stood up, wiping her face. Looked at me one last time. "I hope it was worth it," she said. "I hope it was worth it too. For you. Was he?" She didn't answer, just walked out. Sarah came in after. "You okay?" I lied. "Yeah, I'm fine." But I wasn't fine. That night I couldn't sleep, kept seeing Jennifer's face, kept hearing her sobs, kept wondering, had I become something I didn't want to be? I'd wanted justice. I'd gotten it. I'd wanted them to face consequences. They had, but watching someone break in front of you, even someone who hurt you, feels different than you think it will. I called my therapist. Yeah, I'd started seeing a therapist. Madison had recommended it. "You're going to need someone to process this with." Dr. Lynn listened to me explain what had happened. Jennifer showing up, her breakdown, my complicated feelings about it. "Do you think you went too far?" she asked. "I don't know. Part of me feels like she got what she deserved. Part of me feels like I enjoyed it too much. Hurt people, Robert. But that doesn't mean consequences are wrong. She made choices. Those choices had results. You didn't fabricate evidence. You didn't lie. You revealed truth. That's not the same as cruelty. Then why do I feel like shit? Because you're not a sociopath. Because seeing someone suffer, even someone who hurt you, is hard. That's not weakness. That's humanity. I sat with that for a while. The question, Dr. Lynn continued, is whether you did this for justice or for revenge, and whether you can live with the answer. I thought about it, really thought. "I think it was both," I admitted. "I think I wanted justice, but I also wanted them to hurt like I hurt. I wanted them to lose what they'd risked everything for." "And did that make you feel better?" "No, it made me feel empty." She nodded. "That's the thing about revenge. It's supposed to balance the scales. But pain isn't math. It doesn't add and subtract cleanly. You can't equation your way to healing." She was right. Of course she was right. Christopher tried reaching out once more. Sent a letter through his attorney, offering money, anything, just to make me retract the IRS complaint. Madison brought me the offer. $50,000, plus a formal apology. "You could take it," Madison said. "The IRS investigation is already started. They won't stop just because you retract. You'd just be $50,000 richer." I thought about it. 50,000 would pay off some debt, fund my next year's business expansion, set me up nicely. "No," I said. "Can I ask why?" "Because some things aren't for sale." The IRS complaint wasn't revenge. It was legal obligation. I saw a crime. I reported it. Taking money to retract that would make me complicit. And I'm not going to compromise my integrity for his money. Madison smiled. "You're a rare client, Robert." "Rare or stupid?" "Rare." The divorce settled in August. Jennifer agreed to everything. 70-30 split in my favor. I kept the house. She waived spousal support. Clean break, no contest. Her attorney told Madison, "She just wants it over. She's not going to fight." On the day our divorce was finalized, I sat in my attorney's office, signing the last papers. 10 years of marriage reduced to legal documents. "How do you feel?" Madison asked. "Tired." "That's normal." I drove home, to my house now fully mine, and walked through the rooms. It felt different. Not sad exactly, just different. Like it was mine in a way it hadn't been before. I'd started redecorating, new paint in the bedroom, different furniture in the living room, making it mine, not ours. That night I got a text from Jennifer's sister. "Jennifer wanted you to know she's doing okay. Working as a property manager now, in therapy, trying to rebuild. She doesn't expect anything from you, just wanted you to know she's not destroyed." I appreciated that. Genuinely. I wrote back. "Thank you for letting me know. I hope she finds peace." I meant it. Summer turned to fall. I threw myself into work, but differently this time. I wasn't hiding anymore. Wasn't using work to avoid life. I was just working, building my business, taking care of clients, living. I started going to the gym regularly. Lost 15 pounds I'd been carrying, started looking better, feeling better. Reconnected with old friends I'd neglected during my marriage, had dinners, went to baseball games, played golf. Remembered what it felt like to have a social life. In October, I went to a professional conference, continuing education credits for my EA license. 3 days in Las Vegas, learning about new tax code changes. That's where I met Amanda. She was a tax attorney, 38, sharp, funny, exactly the kind of person who makes tax law jokes and expects you to laugh. We ended up sitting next to each other at a seminar on partnership taxation. "This is the most boring topic possible," she whispered during a particularly dry presentation. "Welcome to our world." We got coffee after. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into staying up late in the hotel bar, talking about work and life and everything else. She knew my story. Everyone in the tax and legal community knew my story by then. The accountant who caught his wife's affair through a tax return. The nuclear revenge that destroyed 2 careers. "That was you?" she asked. "Yeah, that was me." "What you did, reporting the fraud, that took guts. Or stupidity. No, guts. A lot of people would have just filed the return and moved on. You put your integrity first. It cost me my marriage. Your marriage was already over. You just hadn't filed the final return yet." I laughed. She got it. Got me. We exchanged numbers, started texting, then calling, then video chats when we were both home. November, she flew to Phoenix for the weekend. We went hiking in Sedona, had dinner, talked for hours. "I need to be honest with you," I said. "I'm probably going to be paranoid about trust for a while." "I'm working on it, but—" "That's fair," Amanda said. "Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." Dating her felt different from anything I'd experienced. Jennifer had always been complicated, moody, high maintenance, required constant management of her emotions and needs. Amanda was straightforward, said what she meant, communicated clearly, appreciated my work ethic instead of resenting it, valued stability instead of finding it boring. We took it slow. I wasn't ready to rush into anything, but there was something there, something real. Thanksgiving, I hosted for the first time in years. My mom flew in from Seattle. My sister's family drove up from Tucson. I invited Amanda, too. Meeting family, small step. After everyone left, Amanda and I cleaned the kitchen together. "You seem lighter," she said, "than when we met." "I am. Turns out you can grieve a marriage and still be grateful it's over. Healthy perspective." We sat on my back patio, looking at stars. "You think about her?" Amanda asked. "Jennifer. Sometimes, less than I used to. Mostly I just feel neutral, like she's someone I used to know. That's growth. Or numbness." "No," Amanda said firmly. "That's healing. There's a difference." December rolled around. Year end. I reviewed my business finances, personal finances, life in general. Revenue up 30%. New clients every week. Business thriving. House fully mine, redecorated. New energy. New relationship that felt healthy and real. Life was good. Different than I'd planned. Different than I'd expected. But good. I got a Christmas card from Jennifer's sister. Inside was a note. "Jennifer wanted you to know she's doing okay. Working as a property manager, in therapy, trying to rebuild. She doesn't expect anything from you. She's not reaching out, but she wanted you to know she's not destroyed." I sat with that card for a long time. Part of me, the vindictive part, wanted her to still be suffering. Wanted confirmation that the consequences had been severe and lasting, but a bigger part of me just felt tired of it all. I wrote back, "Thank you for letting me know. I genuinely hope she finds peace and builds a good life." And I meant it. I didn't need her to suffer forever. I just needed her to understand that actions have consequences, that you can't lie to people for years, commit crimes, and expect no fallout. She'd learned that lesson, painfully, expensively, publicly, But she'd learned it, and I'd learned mine. That trust isn't about blind faith. It's about verification, about boundaries, about demanding honesty and offering it. New Year's Eve, Amanda came over. We made dinner together, opened champagne at midnight, kissed on my back patio under the stars. Resolution? She asked. Trust the process. Trust myself. Trust carefully, but genuinely. Good resolution. You? Keep dating this emotionally intelligent accountant I met. See where it goes. I smiled. That could work out. Tax season started again in January 2025. Same office, same team, same coffee, same late nights. But everything was different now. New office setup, better chair, plants, photos of me and Amanda hiking. No wedding photo on my desk anymore. My phone rang. New potential client. Mitchell Tax Solutions, this is Robert. Hi, I was referred by a friend. Looking for someone to prepare my return. Are you taking new clients? I am. When would you like to schedule a consultation? We set an appointment. March 17th. By 3 p.m. I marked it on my calendar, then paused. March 17th, 2025. 1 year to the day from when I found line 43, from when my old life ended. Felt appropriate somehow, full circle, new beginning. I sat back in my chair, looked around my office, thought about my life. Through the professional grapevine, I'd heard updates. Jennifer had lost her license permanently, working property management for $40,000 a year. Single, low profile, rebuilding slowly. Christopher had settled with the IRS for $78,000, sold his properties, moved to Phoenix. Trying to restart his career, but his reputation had followed him. Blacklisted in local development circles. They weren't together. They'd imploded spectacularly once everything fell apart, each blaming the other. They got what they earned. Consequences for choices. Math that finally balanced. And me. I got my integrity back, my self-respect, my life. People still asked if I regretted how I handled it, if I thought I went too far. Honestly, I don't know. Some days I think I did exactly what needed to be done, stood up for myself, demanded accountability, refused to be a doormat. Other days I wonder if I became someone I didn't recognize, someone who calculated revenge as methodically as I calculated taxes, someone who enjoyed watching people suffer. But here's what I do know. I learned that trust isn't about blind faith. It's about verification, about paying attention, about having boundaries and enforcing them. Jennifer taught me what betrayal looks like. What it feels like to be lied to every day, what it costs to ignore red flags because you don't want to face the truth. Amanda's teaching me what honesty looks like, what it feels like to be with someone who communicates openly, what it means to build something real, one conversation at a time. Both lessons were necessary. I close my laptop, turn off my office lights, lock up for the night, and drive home to my house, my space, my peace. The numbers never lie. And now neither do I. That's enough.